Mount Everest sits on the border of Nepal and Tibet, rising 8,849 meters above sea level to form the highest point on Earth. This visualization shows what happens to the human body above 8,000 meters. Climbers call this the death zone. Up here, the atmosphere holds barely 1/3 of the oxygen available at sea level. Your blood thickens, your brain function deteriorates. No matter how acclimatized you are, your body breaks down faster than it can heal. You are essentially dying the entire time you are there. For decades, the summit was reserved strictly for elite mountaineers. It required massive, highly experienced national expeditions, like the one that placed Edmund Hillary on the peak. He achieved that summit alongside Tenzing Norgay, a highly skilled Sherpa mountaineer who navigated the route with him. By the early 1990s, the model shifted. Commercial guiding companies began taking paying clients to the summit, people who were fit and motivated but lacked the technical experience to climb independently. For a $70,000 fee, you could hire expert guides to handle the logistics. Guiding companies had opened the summit to anyone with the capital to attempt it. Amateurs were now navigating the death zone, moving alongside veteran mountaineers in an environment that allows no margin for error. In May 1996, the mountain was packed. Leading one of those commercial groups was Rob Hall, a New Zealand mountaineer with 5 Everest summits under his belt. He ran a company called Adventure Consultants, and he was widely considered one of the most capable high-altitude guides alive. Sharing the mountain was Scott Fisher. He was a highly experienced, charismatic American climber running a rival outfit called Mountain Madness. Among Hall's clients was John Krakauer, a journalist for Outside magazine, who was assigned to write about the growing commercialization of the peak. Clients like Krakauer relied entirely on fixed ropes, carefully managed supplemental oxygen tanks, and the constant supervision of their guides to survive the ascent. The men in charge were elite mountaineers, but the vast majority of the people on the mountain were paying customers. Their survival depended entirely on the decision-making of a handful of professionals. That season, the mountain was exceptionally crowded. At least 17 different expeditions were staged at base camp, all waiting for a narrow window of clear weather to make a push for the top. On the night of May 10th, multiple teams decided to go for it. Adventure Consultants, Mountain Madness, and a Taiwanese expedition all departed their high camp simultaneously, trudging upward through the dark. They all eventually converged at the Hillary Step, a nearly vertical 40-foot rock face just below the summit. Climbers must pass through here one at a time. With dozens of people arriving at the same time, a massive traffic jam formed. Climbers were forced to stand completely still in freezing temperatures, burning through their limited oxygen supplies as they waited their turn to move. The presence of dozens of climbers on a single-file route meant the groups were consuming their oxygen reserves while standing perfectly still. Every minute of delay at the Hillary Step was a minute subtracted from the survival margin needed for the descent. To manage this precise risk, commercial guides enforce a strict safety protocol, the 2 p.m. turnaround rule. This graph illustrates the safety window of summit day. It maps an average climber's oxygen supply against the daylight hours. To get back to the safety of high camp before the sun sets and your tanks run dry, you must turn around by 2 p.m., regardless of how close you are to the top. On May 10th, that rule was ignored. Climbers were still pushing upward at 3 and 4 p.m. Clients had paid tens of thousands of dollars, and guides were under pressure to deliver results. Under the influence of the death zone and commercial expectations, seasoned leaders abandoned their only failsafe. At 5 p.m., a massive storm arrived. Hurricane-force winds exceeded 100 kilometers per hour, temperatures plummeted, and the peak was engulfed in a whiteout. Visibility dropped to 0. For the climbers still high on the mountain, the fixed ropes marking the route were buried under fresh snow. They were effectively blind at 8,000 meters, running out of oxygen in the dark. Near the south summit, Rob Hall stayed with his client, Doug Hansen, who was too exhausted to move. Rescue could not reach them. Both died on the mountain. Scott Fisher collapsed during his descent and died from exposure. Guide Andy Harris disappeared into the storm and was never found. Yasuko Namba, who had just completed the 7 summits, was found unconscious on the South Col, but died before she could be rescued. Beck Weathers was left for dead after being found unconscious. The following day, he regained consciousness, stood up, and walked back into camp alone. He survived, though he lost his right hand, the fingers on his left, and part of his nose to frostbite. By the time the storm cleared, 8 people were dead, the deadliest single day in the mountain's history at that time. The night ended in a total systemic collapse, where the protocols, the oxygen supplies, and the weather all failed simultaneously. John Krakauer's account, Into Thin Air, brought the story to millions and ignited intense debate over the ethics and safety of the commercial guiding model. Yet the commercialization of Everest has only accelerated. The traffic jams at the Hillary Step are now longer than they were in 1996, and turnaround times are still violated. The mountain remains indifferent to human ambition. Despite the tragedy of 1996, the death zone remains a landscape where the human body is not meant to survive. Before he died, Rob Hall reached his pregnant wife by satellite phone. His final words to her were, "Sleep well, my sweetheart. Please don't worry too much."